Welcome to M Squared TechCast, a live show offering the latest news and interviews with the people driving business, technology, and politics in Michigan. Now,
ABKO Labs, which also is like Sterling Heights or something, right?
We're in Warren.
Warren,
it's
okay.
ABKO Labs, like lab coat.
Okay.
So we are one of the first startup safety compliance facilities to get licensed.
Oh, and when you were talking before we started, you mentioned there's only 5 labs in the state, so there's no shortage of business right now.
Correct.
Right?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct right now.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how did you get into this? What's your background? I noticed that Kirk mentioned when we were off camera that he was a former grower, and I'm sure it was tomatoes and not anything else, of course, because that would have been illegal, right?
Yeah, I started with tomatoes and ended up with cannabis.
Well,
yes, I was.
Get that down, right?
Yeah, I
You
was
know,
a
so-
caregiver under the old act, and I decided to. We reconnected. It's a long story, but kind of a cool one. We dated in high school. We went to prom together.
Ooh, how
So
nice.
we lived together for a while, and then I was kind of an idiot, and I decided to go off and
Would
follow.
you agree with that, Amy? Was he kind of an idiot?
I would agree with
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure she will. Yeah, she's told me many times. Anyway, so I decided to follow the Grateful Dead, and she decided to go to college.
Ugh.
So I came back, and I was friends with her brother, and we reconnected. And I looked for her for a while, and I didn't know her last name, so I found her on Facebook finally, and we reconnected 28 years later.
Wow.
And I sold my business, and I moved to Chicago to be with her.
Mm.
And then things took another turn, and we moved back here to start this lab.
Was your business in the space that you sold, or was that a different business altogether?
Just different business. Yeah.
Okay, so that's your background. So
Yep. So you guys you sold your business and you got into this this testing space. How did you get into it? But then also how exactly do you test this stuff? Like,
So the way that we got into it, and it kind of developed organically. So with Kirk having had the cannabis experience, and I'd spent 30 years in financial services and law, and my dad was a chemist. So the three of us
interesting.
sitting down having beers at Red Coat Tavern, and my dad said, "Why don't you do a lab?" And I said, "That's a great idea. Let's do a lab." And the funny thing is, we joke about this all the time, that we didn't realize that night we were starting to eat an elephant. We just were taking little bites of something, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger as we've gone along. And we've had, our friends and family have been patient, supportive, and understanding, because it's not an easy process to go through.
and it sounds like an expensive process.
It's
Extremely expensive.
extremely expensive, very high barriers to entry for sure.
Yeah.
It's complex.
like the kind of equipment, is it really expensive equipment you have to buy, or is it leased, or how do you do that? I mean, that's scared the daylights out of me.
It scares us today. Yes. Yeah. The instruments are very expensive.
So basically, it's a suite of different types of mass spectrometers that you use that can test for different things. So, for example, we have one instrument that's a liquid chromatograph mass spectrometer, and that tests for the bulk of the pesticides.
Mm-hmm.
And this piece of equipment is about the size of your desk, and basically it tests parts per billion on the pesticide side. So Michigan's being very stringent on that, as they should be. And then there's a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer that tests for the pesticides, where you can test parts per million. And then there's a couple other instruments involved. There's an ICP-MS, which tests heavy metals. And what's interesting on that one, and you know more about it than I do, but the core of it is actually like 5,000 degrees. But in order to even get this instrument, we had to sign off on multiple documents that we weren't using it for nuclear weapons, that we don't have a
Yeah. We could actually, literally, you could test.
There's
for
more money in
uranium
nuclear
on this thing.
weapons, I think, though. But
Yeah. So they just want to make sure we're not making dirty bombs. or
yeah,
anything
makes
like
sense.
that.
Yeah. So
So
basically,
any
yeah.
enemies?
Yeah, so basically we would go out to the cultivators or the processors, and then we have a state mandated sample selection methodology that we use. We bring it back to the lab, do the sample prep, run the test, and then get the results out to the cultivators and processors, our main clients.
wow, interesting.
Is it hard to go find the clients, or?
No, not right now. It's not, because there's just so few labs and they're all so backed up. It's right now it's not.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So
Plus, we know a ton of people in the industry.
Yeah, we know a lot of. We've gone to a lot of meet and greets. We've
yeah.
actually met Steve Braddock
Yep.
at one of them.
I heard of that guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, he's all right. He's a pretty good.
the lighting guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard of him. So Matt's not here. He always likes to ask his favorite question is, are you hiring? And if so, what positions are you hiring for? That's his standard question.
So we're in the process right now of trying to get operational. So it's a little bit, and I know we'll probably talk a little bit about the licensing process. But
yeah, we should talk about that too.
Yeah, so right now we've got a couple people on staff. Hiring, especially for us, is like a unicorn because we need somebody who's got science knowledge and background, who's hopefully worked on these types of instruments, who has the right personality fit because we are a small mom and pop startup, and that's not a fit for everybody. And they also kind of have to think like an entrepreneur. So it's a lot to ask of somebody. So we've found our team of unicorns, but we are always looking for people who have experience on the equipment, on the different instruments, just to kind of add a little bit more expertise to the suite.
And we are going to start looking for people to actually, because we have to go out and get the samples. So we are going to do it that at first, but it may take a lot longer. So me and her could only probably do maybe 1 or 2 a day when we actually need to do up to 8 or 10 a day. So we are actually going to hire for that.
Yep. So it'd be like a sample selection specialist.
Ah.
So the licensing process, how does it work? I mean, is it a hard process?
You go through hell.
Yeah. So literally, we were the first company in the entire state to get pre-qualified.
Really?
And it took us a year to get to our phase 2. And part of that was the way that Michigan had it structured was so much of the burden was on the cities. And what we found, being a lab, we need like office space.
Exactly.
Like a doctor's office. And a lot of the space that was available were like old muffler shops.
Yeah, they had us all industrial and didn't understand that we needed like doctor space. And they have like a 500-foot buffer. So we actually had to lobby to get the buffer taken away because there was no space for us. So it took us like 9 months just to do that.
So just a lot of education.
You guys are spending a lot of money, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of time. We've gone to a lot of board meetings. I mean,
yeah.
a lot of board meetings.
So what happened? Like, so a company that produces cannabis comes to you, and you guys do the tests on it, so then they can tell the state what it is because they can't test their own stuff.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So that's one of the barriers to entry on the lab side is, and it applies to both the labs and the secured transports. So if you own either of those types of businesses, you're not permitted to have a financial interest in any other type of marijuana business.
Really?
So basically, what they're trying to do is keep us pure and independent, as it should be, because these are important tests. You want to make sure you know what people are putting in their bodies. So it's
basically stay in your own lane.
Yep.
If you're vertically integrated, then you would be incentivized to maybe cut corners on the tests and things, right?
Correct, and you just would automatically pass yourself all the time, so you can sell your goods. And the state does independently verify once a year. They give a similar sample to each of the labs and make sure that our results are coming in within a statistically significant number.
Right, got it. So, what makes you guys different from the other 4?
So one of the decisions that we made, and part of this is because the 2 of us are not necessarily the scientists. We went with all brand new equipment, and we went with a company that has a faster way of processing the testing. So our goal had been that we were going to try to do a turnaround time of 24 hours on flower, and that's our goal. We don't know that we'll be able to reach that goal, but that's our target. Because we want to help these, because the cultivators just have such a backlog right now.
So as we're sitting here, is there someone in your lab like testing stuff, or is that?
They're validating right now. So we have 2 employees in the lab working right now. So one of the interesting things, and there's a lot of catch-22s, and we're talking about the hops and the hemp. So yeah, so you got to validate, but you're not allowed to use marijuana.
So
you
at
can't
first
be a
they're
user if you validate, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. So yeah, we started with hemp.
Hops.
The hops first. And then we had to get hemp samples.
Yeah, so basically you can order.
So basically what you're doing is you're trying to teach the machine, like with the pesticides, they give us a string of pesticides that you're supposed to test for, and you're teaching the machine what to look for. So that's what we're doing at that stage right now. We're just
artificial intelligence? Or?
Something like that.
Like, this is what this pesticide looks like. So later when you run the samples through, it says, oh yeah, I've seen that before. That's this thing.
Right.
Wow.
So right now we're teaching them. They come out of the box, they're not very smart.
No, they're capable, but they're not very smart.
Yeah. Sounds like the average
So
student,
we're just basically
right?
we're teaching them to look for what we want them to look for.
Okay. So, David, I got 2 minutes. 2 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit more about, well, you don't really need more business, but I mean, if somebody did want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
So our website is www.abko .abkolabs.com, and that's ABKO, so Amy Brown Kirk Olbrich, it's our initials.
Mm-hmm.
And then the phone number is 248-505-1429, or you can reach us at info@abkolabs.com.
Okay, and do you have a Facebook page, social
We do
media?
have a Facebook page. I am on LinkedIn. We don't have a business page yet on LinkedIn, but we do have a business page on Facebook.
Okay. And any kind of words of advice for anybody else that may want to go into your line of work? Sounds like you've got to be very patient, right?
Yeah, you definitely have to have a lot of patience, and it's the key, and I think for us in a lot of ways, and the people around us. The our lab director who's there working on the instruments right now, we made him a job offer. I think he would start work August 1st of last year, and he just started the last couple weeks. So
Wow.
it's he's been a great team member. He's been extremely patient with us. We've got employees who've accepted offers with us that we're telling them just pump the brakes for now. We'll let you know when we're ready. So there's a lot of timing of things, catch-22s, and a lot of things have to be dealt with.
Sounds great. All right, so that's again Amy Brown and Kirk Olbrich from ABKO Labs in Warren, one of 5 testing facilities here in the state, and they're very busy right now.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.